I went to see him. He said he didn't want to talk to me. He said, "You were in jail." He said like this, jail, Jail. I was just driving and I had a fight with the taxi driver.
I mean, the judge gave you 2 years. It was the most incredible.
It's late August 1991 at Spa-Francorchamps, Belgium. Formula One teams have gathered for the Belgian Grand Prix on this legendary track, but there's an extraordinary buzz in the paddock. A relatively unknown 22-year-old German driver, Michael Schumacher, is about to make his F1 debut for the Jordan team under the most bizarre circumstances. Why? Because the man he is replacing, Bertrand Gachot, isn't injured or sick. He's sitting in a jail cell in London. This unimaginable scenario, a Grand Prix driver behind bars on the eve of a race, would set in motion one of the greatest career beginnings in motorsport history. The young Schumacher, who got this chance purely by a twist of fate, would go on to become a 7-time world champion and the most successful F1 driver ever. This is the incredible story of how a moment of madness and a harsh prison sentence changed the course of Formula One, giving the sport a new superstar. A team on the rise, Jordan Gachot, and a promising 1991 season. In 1991, Eddie Jordan's brand new Formula One team, Jordan Grand Prix, was turning heads for its strong debut. Jordan had signed 2 drivers, the experienced Italian Andrea de Cesaris and a Belgian-born Frenchman named Bertrand Gachot. Gachot was a young driver building a solid reputation. Earlier that summer, he had achieved a remarkable victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving a Mazda 787B to win the iconic endurance race. In Formula One, the green 7-Up-sponsored Jordan 191 car was competitive for a newcomer team, and Gachot had been performing well alongside de Cesaris. He even set the fastest lap at the Hungarian Grand Prix after a late tire change, showing the car's potential. By mid-season, confidence was high within the Jordan camp. Gachot was so optimistic about the upcoming race at Spa, a track he knew favored the Jordan's strengths, that he bet his mechanics he could take pole position there. Little did Gachot know, however, that he would never even get to drive at Spa that year. His promising season was about to come to a screeching halt due to an off-track incident that had occurred months earlier. Road rage in London, the incident that changed everything. The trouble had actually begun the previous winter, on 10th December 1990 in London. Bertrand Gachot was en route to a crucial meeting near Hyde Park Corner, a meeting with representatives of 7-Up, Jordan's title sponsor, and team boss Eddie Jordan. He was running late, likely anxious to secure funding for the upcoming season. Then fate intervened in the form of a minor traffic collision. Gachot's car bumped into the back of a taxi. By all accounts, the fender bender itself caused no real damage. But what followed escalated rapidly into chaos. According to Gachot's later testimony, the taxi driver became enraged. He allegedly grabbed Gachot by the tie and appeared ready to start a physical altercation. Feeling threatened and panicked, Gachot reached for a canister of CS gas, tear gas, that he carried for self-defense and sprayed the cabbie with it. It all happened in an instant. The taxi driver was incapacitated by the gas, and Gachot, realizing the gravity of what he'd done, hid the CS gas canister in a nearby building's bathroom cistern to cover his tracks. However, the attempt to hide evidence was futile. The police arrived. Ironically, Gachot himself had called them in the heat of the moment. Instead of settling what could have been a minor scuffle, Gachot's act of using tear gas, a prohibited weapon for civilians in the UK, turned the incident into a serious legal matter. He was promptly arrested and later charged with actual bodily harm for injuring the taxi driver and possession of an illegal weapon. It was a stunning turn of events for a Formula One driver. One day he's negotiating sponsorship deals and preparing for a new season. The next he's facing criminal charges over a road rage incident. Gachot later reflected on that moment with regret, saying, "He grabbed me by the tie and I just didn't even think. I defended myself." A split-second decision that would derail his life and career. Shock at the court, an exemplary punishment. Fast forward to August 1991. Gachot's court case had finally come up for trial at Southwark Crown Court in London, unfortunately timed just a week before the Belgian Grand Prix, the very race he had been looking forward to. Throughout the legal proceedings, Gachot maintained that he acted in self-defense. He fully expected the British justice system to be lenient, assuming he'd get a fine or at worst a suspended sentence for this first-time offense. After all, causing no lasting harm in a scuffle might typically result in a slap on the wrist. In fact, Gauchot was so confident of a minor outcome that he had planned to fly to Monza for testing immediately after the trial. Instead, the outcome was far more severe than anyone anticipated. The judge decided to make an example out of the 28-year-old racing driver. To the shock of Gauchot, his team, and the entire racing community, Bertrand Gauchot was sentenced to 18 months in prison for the altercation. He was sent directly to HM Prison, Brixton in London, and later transferred to HMP North A, a facility in Bexhill-on-Sea, to serve his sentence. This was almost unheard of, a Formula One driver jailed during the season, missing races because of a criminal conviction. The paddock and the press were in disbelief. Yes, Gauchot had broken the law by using tear gas, but an 18-month custodial sentence seemed outrageously harsh for what many viewed as a minor road rage incident. As former F1 driver David Coulthard noted, the court likely issued such a strict punishment because the case was high profile and the judge wanted to make an example of Gauchot. The severity of the sentence sparked an outcry across the European motorsport community. In Gauchot's home country of Belgium, as well as in racing circles worldwide, there was a wave of support for the jailed driver. A Belgian racer named Pascal Witmuir even organized a public campaign to free Gauchot. At the Belgian Grand Prix that week, fans and even some fellow drivers showed their support. People wore t-shirts and waved flags emblazoned with slogans calling for Gauchot's release. Graffiti appeared around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit demanding justice for Gauchot. Witmuir went so far as to carry sponsorship on his Formula 3000 car that promoted Gauchot's cause. Even political figures got involved. The British ambassador to the European Union formally apologized to Belgium for the incident, calling Gauchot's sentence a travesty of justice. To many, it seemed Gauchot was being punished not purely for the altercation, but because his fame made him a convenient target to send a message about road violence. From behind bars, Bertrand Gauchot could only watch these developments from afar, and they were bittersweet. On one hand, he saw an outpouring of support from fans and colleagues who believed his punishment was unjust. On the other, he was helplessly missing out on the prime of his racing career. As he sat in his cell, Gauchot remained hopeful that the appeals court would overturn or reduce his sentence. Indeed, he would eventually serve only about 2 months before being released on appeal, a far cry from the original 18-month term. But that outcome would come too late to save his spot in the Jordan team. In the unforgiving world of F1, the show had to go on without him. And go on it did, with a new driver in his seat. One anecdote Gauchot later shared illustrates just how surreal and heartbreaking this period was for him. In prison, one of the guards realized Gauchot was the F1 driver who'd been all over the news. When the Belgian Grand Prix rolled around, this guard couldn't resist taunting his famous inmate a little. "The first time someone spoke to me about Michael Schumacher, it was one of the guards in jail," Gauchot recalled. He said the new guy they hired is so good, they don't need you anymore so you can stay here. Every time the guard opened Gauchot's cell door during the race weekend, he would mimic the high-pitched vroom of a Formula One engine, rubbing salt in the wound. For Gauchot, it was a nightmare. Not only was he missing the race he'd dreamed of conquering, but he was hearing that his replacement might be outperforming even his own ambitions. That new guy the guard mentioned was Michael Schumacher, and indeed, Schumacher was about to make the most of the opportunity fate had given him. Opportunity knocks. Eddie Jordan finds a replacement. Back at the Jordan team, the atmosphere was frantic. The Belgian GP at Spa was approaching in days, and one of their race drivers was now unexpectedly unavailable. Team owner Eddie Jordan faced every F1 boss's worst nightmare, finding a last-minute replacement driver who could competently race his car. Not only that, Jordan was running a small independent team on a tight budget, so he saw this crisis as a chance to bring in some extra funding as well. The search was on for a driver who was fast enough to handle the daunting Spa circuit and also backed by money that could help the team. Eddie Jordan had a knack for spotting talent and making bold moves. He immediately started making calls across the racing world. There was no shortage of interested candidates. Word spreads quickly in the paddock, and a vacant F1 seat, even for one race, is a golden opportunity many would grab. I knew there were a lot of people that wanted that seat, Gachot said of his predicament. In the end, Jordan's attention turned to a young German driver who was making waves in the junior ranks, Michael Schumacher. Schumacher was just 22 years old, virtually unknown in Formula One, but he was a rising star in sports car racing and the junior single-seater categories. He had won the Macau Grand Prix in 1990, a prestigious Formula 3 race, and had been the German Formula 3 champion, achievements that marked him as a talent to watch. More importantly for Eddie Jordan, Schumacher was backed by Mercedes-Benz, the manufacturer for whom he was racing in the World Sports Car Championship. Mercedes offered Jordan a reported $150,000 to put Schumacher in the car for Spa. For a cash-strapped team like Jordan, that money was very persuasive. Spa-Francorchamps 1991, a star is born. Arriving at Spa, Michael Schumacher wasted no time in making an impression. Despite having minimal preparation, legend has it Michael had only done a seat fitting and learned the track by cycling around it. The German rookie approached the weekend with confidence and focus. From the first practice sessions, it was clear that Jordan had found something special. Schumacher was immediately on the pace, getting comfortable with the Jordan 191 car and the demanding Spa circuit astonishingly quickly. When qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix concluded, the timesheets told a story that nobody could have predicted. Michael Schumacher had qualified 7th on the grid. 7th place might not sound earth-shattering at first, but for context, this was Jordan's debut season and Schumacher's very first Formula One race weekend. He had put the car well ahead of many established drivers and teams. In fact, Schumacher out-qualified his veteran teammate Andrea de Casares, and he qualified just behind the sport's top contenders of the era. Eddie Jordan was ecstatic. For a tiny new team, Schumacher's qualifying performance felt like pole position to us, he quipped proudly. The paddock was stunned and intrigued. Who was this Michael Schumacher, who in one session had managed to unlock so much speed? Race day, however, would serve up both disappointment and a tantalizing glimpse of the future. As the lights went out on Sunday, Schumacher made a good launch off the grid, holding his position through the famous La Source hairpin. But mere seconds later, as he powered down the steep Eau Rouge section, disaster struck. The Jordan's clutch failed, and Schumacher had to pull over with a smoking car before completing even one full lap. His first Grand Prix ended almost as soon as it began, just half a mile into the race. It was a heartbreaking early exit. Andrea de Casares, in the other Jordan, went on to nearly finish on the podium that day. His car failed just laps from the end while running second. Had Schumacher's car held together, who knows what he might have achieved in the race. But despite the DNF did not finish, Michael Schumacher's performance that weekend had already done its job. In one qualifying session and a few hundred meters of racing, Schumacher convinced the F1 world that he was a future star. The raw talent was undeniable. Legacy: reflections of fate and fortune. In the years since 1991, the tale of Bertrand Gachot's prison sentence and Michael Schumacher's debut has become a legendary anecdote in Formula One lore, a cautionary tale about how fate can dramatically change the course of careers. Remarkably, Gachot holds no grudge against Schumacher, quite the opposite. Michael Schumacher's conduct at the time left a deep impression on Gachot. Immediately after securing the drive at Spa in 1991, Schumacher reached out to Gachot with empathy, saying, "Bertrand, is there anything I can do for you? I'm really sorry for what happened." Gachot was genuinely touched by this gesture of kindness from the young German. It showed that Schumacher understood he was stepping into another man's shoes under unfortunate circumstances. That respectful attitude helped Gachot accept what happened. "I was touched," Gachot said simply of Michael's words. And that's the story of how one man's prison sentence unexpectedly sparked the greatest Formula One career of all time. It reminds us that sometimes life's craziest twists can open doors to legends. If you enjoyed this incredible tale, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more unforgettable F1 stories.